So I actually think that it's your fault that I have all these books. Since it's the Irish Readathon, I got myself in the mood to acquire some Irish books because, you know, give the people what they want. I'm sure you guys wanted to hear me talk about some new Irish books that have come onto my shelves. So unfortunately, I do think you are to blame for this book haul. I also reached out to a few publishers to see if there was any books that they would like to send me to talk about during the readathon. And I also reached out to a few publishers and they very kindly sent me some books for the readathon. And I wasn't expecting everyone that I reached out to say yes. So it's also their fault. Fourth Estate were kind enough to send me these two books, starting with Evenings and Weekends by Oisin McKenna. So this is one of my most anticipated reads. This is the hardback. The paperback comes out later this year. And this is set in London in June 2019. And I remember that month so clearly because it was the month that I moved to London, and I also really recall how hot that summer was, and I think that kind of atmosphere of the intense heat is really captured in the storytelling in this book as well. The novel is set over 2 days in the capital, and we follow a group of like early 30s people whose lives are interconnected, and I have heard so many good things about this book, so I'm very excited to read it. Fourth Estate also sent me a copy of Fun and Games by John Patrick McHugh. So this is a debut novel that explores themes of masculinity, social class, family, and love. We're following 17-year-old John, who, as many teenagers often feel at that stage in their life, isn't sure what direction he wants his life to go in. He is living on the small island on which he grew up, and he should be enjoying the weeks in the lead up to his exam results coming out. But instead, he's working these very boring shifts at a local hotel and also dealing with the aftermath of his mother's nude sex leaking to this island community. John ends up joining his local senior men's football team, and he also enters into a relationship with the slightly older Amber. And as the summer comes to a close, he is faced with a crossroad and a set of decisions about the direction that he wants his life to go into. I always love books that are about that kind of stage in a young person's life where they are met with a liminal space or crossroads. So definitely looking forward to reading this one. And then Penguin Fig Tree sent me a copy of I Want to Go Home But I'm Already There by Roisin Lanigan, which wins the award for the best book title of the year. It is such a good title. And I believe this one is about the rental crisis, but with a gothic edge to it. So Anya has recently moved in with Elliot, and she should be feeling really happy about this. They have just moved to a really affluent neighborhood where there are like yoga classes and lots of cute cafes. They've even got a garden, but there is something about their new flat that just doesn't seem right to her. And things become increasingly unsettling, and she becomes increasingly focused on how strange this house is. And also Little Island have very kindly sent me two books for younger readers. So A Fix of Light is a new young adult book from Kel Menton, and I don't actually know too many specifics about the plot of this, but I rather was drawn to this kind of because of the vibe. And I also met someone from Little Island towards the end of last year who really passion pitched this book to me, and that passion pitch really stayed with me. I do believe this one deals with quite hard-hitting and emotional topics like suicide and self-harm, but ultimately is a very hopeful novel, and I love an emotionally hard-hitting young adult book. Also from Little Islands, they sent me Giant by Judith McQuoid. So this sounds really unique and unlike anything that I've read before, and this is the reimagining of C.S. Lewis's childhood. So we follow Davy, who is a working class boy, and he meets Jax, who is a young C.S. Lewis, and it is together that they begin to explore the joy of books, storytelling, imagination. I think it's one of those things that is often forgotten that C.S. Lewis was from Belfast, and I think the premise of this book just sounds so sweet, and I think it would make a really cozy reading evening settling down with this one. While we're on books for younger readers, let's talk about books that I just bought for myself because I simply have no self-control. I have also found a new secondhand bookshop in London, which is actually one of the best secondhand bookshops I've ever been to, and I am going to gatekeep it for as long as I possibly can. And it was there that I picked up a copy of The Lost Girl King by Catherine Doyle. Now, did I need to pick up another book from Kat? Do I already have several of her books on my shelves waiting to be read? Yes, I do. But I'm hoping by the time you see this video, I will have read quite a few of them. This magical Magical Middle Grade is about Amy and Liam, who are packed off to spend the summer at their grandmother's house on the west coast of Ireland. And they stumble across an entrance to Tír na nÓg. Now, if you know anything about Irish mythology, you'll know Tír na nÓg is the land of eternal youth. But here, Amy and Liam realise that there is something that is going very, very wrong in Tír na nÓg, and they set off on a seemingly impossible quest where everything is at stake. And then a writer that's been on my radar for quite a while, but I've never read any of his books, is Pádraig Kenny. So I picked up a copy of Tin, which follows an orphan named Christopher, who works for an engineer of mechanical children. And he is the only quote unquote real boy amongst these mechanical children. And he has always been fine with that until an accident revealed an awful truth. Christopher sets off along with his friends on a journey to discover who they really are and what it means to be human. And then the other books I have from Pádraig Kenny are The Monsters of Rookhaven and The Shadows of Rookhaven. So in this first gothic adventure, we are following Mirabelle, who has always known that she is a monster. And due to this magical glamour, she and her family have always been protected and concealed from the outside world. But when this barrier is damaged, an orphaned brother and sister stumble upon Rookhaven, and Mirabelle discovers that it is possible to find friendship in the outside world. But of course, this tear in the glamour has also let danger in. And I'm so loving all of the kind of spooky gothic vibes of it. And then the follow-up, The Shadows of Rookhaven, also follows Mirabelle and the spooky Rookhaven setting. So I think these ones are going to sit on my shelf for a little while because I would like to read them around Halloween time. I do think Irish writers are very good at doing spooky. And then I also picked up a copy of Gods Don't Cry by Ellen Ryan with illustrations from Conor Merriman. So this is a book all about the ancient stories of Ireland. I have read a similar book from Ellen Ryan that also took a look at Irish mythology in a really beautifully, accessibly told way. I loved reading that book so much, and I'm very excited to have a similar reading experience with this one. And I think what's particularly great about this one is that it's focused on the unsung stories. So I think it's likely that there will be some myths and some mythological figures included in this book that I haven't even heard of before. So I'm very excited to snuggle down with this one. I think it's another one where it will just be such a cozy, lovely reading experience. Perfect for settling down on the sofa for an evening. And then to finish up, I have two books of adult fiction from authors that I'm shocked that I haven't read any books from yet. But I have Trespasses by Louise Kennedy. Now, I am part of the way through this author's short story collection, but I think she is so much better known for this fiction novel. This is set in the 1970s in the north of Ireland, and it is focused around the relationship between Cushla and Michael. Michael is a married man, he is a Protestant, and they meet in her family's pub, and the novel explores the conflict in that relationship. And then I also have So Late in the Day by Claire Keegan. So I have wanted to get my hands on these wonderful dinky short stories from Claire Keegan for quite a while, so I'm very excited to finally have a copy of this one. This is about a man named Cathal who, after a quite boring, mundane day at his Dublin office, Cathal heads into the weekend with thoughts of a woman named Sabine, a woman who he could have spent his life with had he behaved differently. I don't really want to know anything further about this story before going into it because they are so economically told and so concise in their storytelling that I just want to dive in and experience it. So there we have it. They are all of the Irish books I have acquired recently. Do leave me a comment down below and let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, or if there are any books on this list that you too want to get a copy of. If you want to let me know you're here but you don't have anything in particular to say, do leave me a green emoji as per all of the Irish Readathon videos. And that is it for me. I hope you're well, and I'll speak to you in my next video.